with us today Jack Dangermond, the President of ESRI, and he will give us a public lecture on how GIS can be used on different applications and the power that ESRI provided in this science for the past 3 to 4 decades. And I will give the floor to Jack. Thank you.
Good morning, and I also want to welcome you to this lecture. How many of you are geographers? 11. How many of you are in the design field? Planners, landscape architects? Oh, that's great. And then economics? What? How many computers? IT, programming? Good. Well, what else? Earth science, great. Agriculture, geology, forestry, water resources. Oh, that's good. I very much appreciate you coming, and I want to acknowledge you for coming. This is an important day and an important lecture, I think. That's not an egotistical statement. That's a statement about what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk a bit about geography and GIS technology. But it's worthwhile starting with this, and that is that our world is changing rapidly. The world that we are moving into is very different from when I was your age, and like it has 2.5 times more people. The list of issues here are clear. You read about them in the press, and they are challenging us as organizations, but also as human beings. And what we think is missing is clear understanding, a kind of collaborative understanding. Some years ago when I grew up, everybody smoked, but people finally understood that smoking kills you at an early age. And even though it was addictive and there was lots of propaganda about smoking, things changed and less people smoke today. Of course, people still smoke. How many of you smoke here? Oh, that's good. We need to have that kind of collective intelligence and understanding about what we're doing as footprints on the planet. And we can start with this, that geography is our platform for understanding the world. The technology that I work with, GIS, makes it come alive. It is an application platform. It's a technology for making maps and doing analysis and supporting various kinds of applications. Now, the tradition of geography is one of exploration. We knew the explorers. You could be an adventurer and discover the North Pole or the South Pole or whatever. This was interesting. People would describe it, write books about it, and it was qualitative geography. People wrote books about it. But when I was young, a new kind of geography started to emerge. These were mostly my professors. These are geographers or computer science people or landscape architects who I studied with, who were curious about exploring geography in a different way, using computational geography, which is the blending of computers and geographic information and maps, trying to put it into a digital format so that we could begin to analyze and work with geographic information. Today, geographic information is prolific in digital forms in all places of the world. And today, we have millions of people working with digital geographies, using it for various purposes. Why is it so compelling? Why is it growing so fast in its use? This suggests that there are 5 basic reasons. First, maps communicate. They communicate stories. They tell us about where we have not been, They help us predict things. They're a storytelling framework. Second, the idea of GIS is that we can take data from different sources and overlay it and combine it and integrate it, model it, and create better understanding. And third, a technology we call spatial analytics is like other kinds of analytics, but it deals with the spatial dimension, relationships, processes, patterns, and the overlay of data in a computational environment. Helps us understand what's going on. And fourth, there's a new field emerging called geodesign, and that field is cross-cutting, it's cross-discipline. It's for farmers, it's for land planners, it's for city planners, it's for military people, it's for everyone who designs. It brings geographic information together and allows us to design alternative futures on the platform. And the final reason why the technology is so rapidly growing today is that the technology is changing. We see this in medical practice as well. We have a few people left who do holistic medicine. They look at your whole body, but most people are specialists. They just operate on your hip or on your arm or in your brain, or they just operate on science or in cancer or just in lung disease, or they're very specialized. We are moved away from looking holistically at the planet. And in organizations, that's codified in information. So what I'm talking about is a medium where we can bring it back together. And this medium is starting to catch on. There are thousands of organizations who are sharing hundreds of millions of maps, the UN, the World Bank, cities, Europe, a lot of US agencies, different levels of government in this new cloud environment. This is happening in the developed world, but it's also happening in places like India, in Indonesia, in all over the world. They're starting to share and break down the barriers, and that's changing the way we think. And for geodesign, that's a very big idea. Well, I've been talking for a while. I hope I got across the basic idea. I'd like you to actually see what I'm talking about. And my colleague here, James Tedrick, is a specialist in holistic bringing together of the information. And he's going to do a little demonstration for us here in something called Ethiopia Online. Ethiopia Online took maps of different agencies and organizations and brought them together in a little website. And he'll give you an idea of what I'm talking about with data right here. So, James?
Thanks, Jack. First, I want you to think about how much data would be inside a geospatial infrastructure. You've got data coming in from mapping agencies, from ministries of agriculture, from ministries of roads. It becomes a lot of data to get around. Just like a library has a lot of books or other material to find. So when we build that geospatial infrastructure, we're talking about a very complex back end, but we need something on the front side, the side that the public can use to be able to access that data easily. And this is what Ethiopia Online is designed to do. It's designed to be a nice, easy to use front end where we can readily get access to the maps, the data, the information that is contained within that geospatial infrastructure. To begin with, I can just start searching for keyword terms, just like looking up terms in a card catalog or going to Google. The Central Statistics Agency, of course, publishes many data items on demographics. So if I search for demographics, we come back and see a variety of data items. Information from the 2011 Population and Health Survey, further information from the 2007 census. I can click, get more information on any of these items, including the author, and these keyword terms, which again provide that really short way to be able to discover what this information is about and who's responsible for it. I can then very easily open them up inside a map and begin to look for them and begin to work with it. So that's why we can work by searching for information. We can also organize information by groups. Some of these groups will be organizational structures. The Ethiopia Mapping Agency will want to have a group that just declares that this is our authoritative information. So if I click here, I see the information that they're experts on and can work with that information knowing that I trust that source. Similarly, the Ministry of Agriculture would want to have its own group to declare that this is the data and the analysis that they've done, that they've verified, that they can certify is true and accurate.
So far what James is doing is showing you a kind of organization of online information, right? But when he finds something he likes, he just clicks and he opens the information up. So I don't know, I'm trying to make you nervous, James, but open one up.
Okay. Well, here's a map on recent nutrition hotspots.
Nutrition.
And we're loading in 3 maps at a time, so it'll take a little bit more. But what we're trying to look at is a nutrition hotspot, which is an area where humanitarian response, in this case, is the data provider, or believe that there is less agricultural production than can meet the nutritional needs of the population. And we can see that in October 2012, there were several areas that were of concern for adequate nutrition, with varying ranges from some concern that requires close monitoring to critical concern. That looks pretty interesting. We may need to address those nutrition deficits. What this isn't quite showing you yet is how those nutrition deficits have played over time. If we go back to June 2011, during the height of the drought, we see many areas under concern, including a lot of areas under critical concern. We can step through to September, and we see some reduction. A couple of worredas here have been removed from concern, and several worredas have been lessened in terms of their degree of concern. Going a year later to October, we see many areas have had lessened concern from the peak just a year ago.
This all gets very clear when I show a demo, and that's what I'll do now.
This is our operations dashboard for ArcGIS. This is where we can browse to see what operation views are available. An operation view is basically a situational awareness display for a particular business problem. In this case, we see an asset monitoring operation view. If I open this up, I can see who's authored this. All this information is coming from ArcGIS Online, so somebody's previously configured this operation view. Let's go ahead and open this. And what we'll see is we've got a layout that has things that are appropriate for an asset monitoring situation. We can see that we have an assets panel, and the assets could be anything from a vehicle to a package to a person, whatever you consider an asset to be. We have a section here for geofences, which we'll demonstrate here in a moment. And then we have a section down here for alerts. These are going to be the anomalies or the situations that are occurring that we want to be notified about as they occur. So I'm going to start a simulation. And what we'll see in our assets box here is that we'll get some vehicles that'll appear. We have 2 vehicles in this case. We can see that their speeds are changing and their location on the map is changing as well. So this is connecting to a vehicle out in the real world. And what we've got configured on the server is a set of services that are looking for monitoring the speed of the vehicle. So we can see the speeds are changing, and as these vehicles go on their own paths here, we can right-click this guy and follow him. And as his speed exceeds 70 miles an hour, we have a rule on the server that generates alerts based on that situation. So we can see that we started an alert. It's been ongoing for a minute, now 2 minutes. And instead of bombarding the user with a bunch of separate alerts, we give one alert and update the status along the way.
This guy's going too
We
fast.
also have a service on the GeoEvent server that's listening for panic button engagement. So in this case, we're listening for a panic button, and we can see that the panic button has now been pressed on. And this guy's pressed it 3 times now, so he may be in some kind of emergency state that we need to respond to. Now, if I'm a fleet manager, I may get a call from my security officer, and he may say there's a hijacking risk in a particular area that we want to monitor. So we can put this in a dangerous area category, and we can go digitize in a new geofence on the fly here. And what we'll see is if we go follow this vehicle in, as soon as he hits the look inside of this dangerous area, we'll start to monitor his situation. And we can see that he's been inside this dangerous area for a few minutes now, and now he's gone outside. And as he enters the other area inside this avoidance situation, we can see that another alert pops in, so we can track how long they spent inside and generate a violation report at the end of the day and take appropriate action with that driver or whoever may be at fault in this case. So let's stop tracking this vehicle. We're going to go track our cargo van that's up in the...
Get the idea? So in that example, a truck was moving along, and we had geofencing going on in the server, and it sent it to a display. But it also could have sent it to an email, like if I'm getting close to something else, I might get an email, like, let's see, if I'm getting close to you, maybe I want to know it. Maybe it's a good thing or maybe it's a bad thing. So real-time geography is coming alive, real-time sensor networks, tweets, and also real-time processing of that information for alerting and viewing. Before I show you this, we are building a landscape database for the entire United States. Many layers. We just finished it actually. Soils, geology, vegetation, land use, slope, all the physical and social variations of the American landscape. We have some nice national parks in our country, but our president wants to double the size of national parks while he's still in office. That's a big job. It's a big political job because not everybody agrees. So he asked if we could build a rational basis, a GIS, for making that kind of decision making. So without ever going to the United States, where do you think we should expand national parks? Or a different question would be, where do you think national parks should be designated if you were going to double the amount of national parks here in Ethiopia? Do you have a clear idea? If you were the president or prime minister, what areas would you put into conservation? And why? How much would you weight this versus that? And then how would you convince the whole parliament that this is a good idea? And how would you convince that your idea is science-based or rational? You with me on this? That's what this woman is going to show you.
This is a sample web application we put together that allows you to fuse landscape image services to ask questions. In this case, let's say we're looking to find valuable undeveloped land that we could propose to put aside for conservation. What we're doing here is performing a weighted overlay using 4 image services: slope, elevation, aspect, and land use. We can take these different factors and we can dynamically reweight them, emphasizing or reducing the influence of different land characteristics, and the weighted overlay is recalculated on the fly within seconds. This allows us to take a quick look at suitability across the entire United States. And as I zoom in, the analysis is refined, the image services are resampled, and the processing is repeated at the appropriate scale, meaning that I can see the true depth of information available to me in this area. The coverage of these landscape services, combined with on-the-fly processing, opens up exciting possibilities for analysis. Let's take a quick moment to show how we can use this analysis to answer a question. We'll say that I'm looking to